Alrighty. Got that on. Camp wrinkles. Kind of the worst? No? We'll make it work. Alrighty. I'm glad you liked my alliteration.
I really did.
I'm glad. Alright. Anything really huge. Disconnected. Yeah. Yes, it literally just fell out. Alright. Am I back?
Looks like it's restarting.
Okay, it says reconnection successful. So hope. Alright. Well, fun. Yeah, I need to get something better than that rubber band to hold my Ethernet cable in place. But anyway, hi guys, how are you? Okay. Man. Alright, so I'm just gonna be like cutting up so many peppers for a while here. Because I have so many peppers. I've got a beautiful pile of these guys. I could go back and figure out exactly what species these are, or not species, type, but I have forgotten. So I have those. I have 3 kind of perfect looking classic bell peppers. I have 2 poblanoes that are getting somewhat old, and I have just so many shishitos. Like, this is the main thing I have to work through is I have so many shishitos. So I'm planning on doing pickling. I'm gonna do two at least different types of pickling, freezing, and then possibly just chopping up and having ready to use for food whenever I feel like it. So I'm actually gonna start with the bell peppers because this gnarly beast has a giant hole, and I just want to like get that dealt with because I know it's a problem. Luckily, it actually looks like the pepper is in more or less really good condition, so that's nice. Yeah, so just one funky bit. It's not my scraps. And one of the shishito pepper recipes that I found has you blister them ahead of time. So once I get things kind of prepped, I'm going to turn on my cast iron to like molten hot and blister a bunch of peppers. And that sounds just like a ton of fun, actually. So some of this stuff is a little funky, a little questionable. Yeah, given how not amazing this green pepper is, I might just eat it today. Throw it into something. Because the stuff that you preserve, you actually kind of want to do that when it's great. You don't really want to preserve things that are funky. So, this guy might actually just become food this week, which is fine. I can usually find a way to use a pepper. But, ting. Yeah, so this I'm just going to let go of my finger. Prefab chop up, and I'm not going to freeze it, which is too bad because it would have been kind of cool to have the 3 different colors of peppers in like a little kit all together for some snowy day, but I want it to also be delicious, so. I was thinking about just like prepping everything, freezing it, and then using it like immediately, but I don't know. If I'm gonna go through the trouble, I wouldn't bother. the shishito peppers, I'm assuming. So what is that? shito peppers. Shishito peppers are these little wrinkly guys. They are kind of funny. We've been enjoying them. 1 in 8 or 1 in 10, depending on which reference you're looking at, is spicy. The rest are not. And they're really soft, and so you can just eat them whole, and they're delicious. And so the main way that you apparently prepare shishito peppers is you just blister them in a pan, toss them in salt, and then eat them. And they're evidently very popular as like a side with drinks. So it's a classic salty. Spell check did not like the spelling. Oh, sorry to hear that. But they're good. We've had them a couple times in a couple different ways. They're nice because I don't bother taking the cores out. I just chop them up and use them in stuff or eat them whole. And they've been nice, but we've gotten a ton from our CSA. So I don't feel the need to keep just eating them straight. I really want to just get them used. I've fallen a bit behind. I have a bag and a half from 2 different weeks of the CSA, so that's the indicator that I got to get on it. And I actually had lost a couple when I cleaned them before I started streaming. I had a couple that had gone a bit funky on me. So, yeah. Okay, so these guys are going to be frozen together. So I could really readily just chop them up and save them, but I don't have a specific plan, so I might as well freeze them. Because again, I can't actually then unfreeze them if I decide I want them. But yeah, shishito peppers are one of those things where I'd never heard of them either before they showed up in my CSA. And then I Google it, and the internet's like, oh yeah, shishito peppers, we love those. And I was like, okay, sweet. And they're nice. They're perfectly legit little peppers. So. And they have the benefit of being peppers that obviously grow abundantly. So I'm a fan of that. Okay. So for my stuff I'm going to freeze, I have to figure out what actual shapes I want. Like, what am I most likely to use in something? Probably just a classic dice. I don't necessarily want like a huge piece, so I don't need a big guy like this. But these are a little small, so something kind of middly, something where you can still tell it's a pepper. And, me of the future can then decide to chop them up more, so that's okay. Freezing stuff's one of those things where, like, it is nice to actually have that stuff available later, but it's not the same as fresh. It's nicer to have fresh, so I usually don't freeze things right away if I can help it. Unless it's, like, berries. Berries, if I'm not going to eat them in that minute, I'll probably freeze them. Okay, so those are perfectly nice size pieces. I can probably fit it all in this bowl. Something that I've been doing this summer, because of the CSA, I've been getting just a lot of produce I don't have time to use. And so I've been reading up, and it's funny how different freezing a vegetable is depending on that vegetable. Like, you're like, whatever, you freeze them. But no, like, a bunch of them you want to pre-cook or parboil. So I had just an absurd ton of green beans, the most ridiculous ton of green beans. And so I froze a bunch of those, and those you're supposed to actually throw into boiling water for 3 minutes, put into an ice bath so they immediately cool off, and then freeze, because that makes them bright green. And if you don't, they will tend to be chewier and gray. And I was like, oh, okay, no, I'm convinced. That sounds like something I definitely don't want. I could definitely do better. So, yeah, like, weird little things. The same thing with pickling stuff. Some things you pickle by cooking them a little bit first, and other things you super don't. So, like, I think that's why pickled cucumbers in all their various forms are so popular, because you don't have to cook it ahead of time. But I made pickled carrots and jalapenos, and that you actually boiled in vinegar for a couple minutes to start softening them up, because of course a carrot's going to have a little more fight to it, and they came out really, really good. So, you know, rock and roll. I'll work with that. This has been just a lovely pepper. Like, I had a few little ding marks that I had to trim out, but this is crisp and fresh, so I feel really good about freezing this guy. My CSA has had a lot of yellow peppers, too, so we've been enjoying these all summer. Something I've been pickling a ton that I don't know if I would do on a live stream just because the steps are few and far between, but it's been beets. Oh my god, pickled beets are so good. That's been such an actual joy. They taste like Christmas candy. I don't know. They're remarkably good. So I have 2 separate jars of pickled beets. We just finished like round 1 of the pickled beets, and now I made more, and they just delivered more beets in the last CSA, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably pickling them, because that's the superior option with beets. Like, there's actually tons of things you could make with beets, but I don't love most of them. You know, they're fine, but I don't love them. Bottom of this has a little bit of discoloring. There's some brown in the bottom there I don't love. But I can trim it. Boop. Ta-da! Boop. The farm that we get our CSA from, most of it's not organic, because they get an organic designation takes a lot of jumping through hoops. But they are a low pesticide place, and so we tend to get more bug marks on the produce, and I think that's a completely fair trade, and I'm happy to just deal with it, because then I know that they're not needlessly killing all of the native buggos in their region for no particular good reason. So I'll take it. Silly farm monocultures. At least this farm is diverse enough that that's less of a thing, but farming still tends to be pretty rough on the local insect scene. Okay. So Chardon Mom, I know you've been busy like all morning. Are you actually like holding still in some place for this feed, or are you running back and forth doing all sorts of organizing projects? So I've been dicing, my pieces have been getting smaller. Oops. I tend to cut things up finely. Okay. So I'm going to move this for a second. There's no reason not to get these into the freezer. And so this is the major... Oh, wow! Yeah, no, Chardon Mom, that is a worthy task. This right here is the secret to freezing stuff. Oh, heck, I'm gonna freeze these. They'll be fine. It's not that weird. And it'll look good. But don't just chuck everything in a Ziploc bag and freeze it right then. If you can spread it out on a cookie tray, and if so, obviously you have to find the right flat surface that will fit in your freezer. But you freeze them like this, and then sometime later, in a couple hours, once everything's frozen, you take it all out, scrape all these off, and then put it in the bag, and then they're individual frozen pieces as opposed to just one huge lump. And so I can then use maybe not the whole bag, or I don't have to pre-thaw it. I can just shake some out if I'm going to throw them in the super stir fry, and they'll thaw really fast. So that's pretty. And pretty food actually often is also delicious food, so it's convenient how we're hardwired to find food delicious based on visuals. Okay, so I'm just going to put this in the freezer, and these are just done. Well, I mean, for now. In 2 hours I'll have to do something like these. Okay. So, first round of peppers, totally done. Great. Moving on. Oh, what do I want to mess around with next? Let's do these guys. So these are, really mildly spicy. Mostly just really attractive. I don't know, these are really cool looking little peppers in my opinion. So these... probably not going to process too much. I might make these into strips and just pickle them in a really basic sort of pickling brine. So I need it to be able to fit in my jars, so I can't do the full length, which is too bad because that was a big, beautiful pepper, but so is life. Do more strips. Let's do like this. Slightly funny looking thing. I'll just remove the bit that's vaguely questionable. Boop. There. And so these are nice pieces. These are nice big pieces because if I have some sort of pickle, I'm going to want a big chunk usually. I like eating pickles just straight. I'll have them with like a cheese and cracker snack. If I'm making sandwiches, sometimes I want a sandwich, So having a fairly robust piece is pretty good for this sort of format, in my opinion. There's the bottom of that slightly questionable part. I might just leave that piece kind of big. So these, I'm going to add maybe some garlic, but I'm going to keep them pretty simple when I'm actually making my various boiling vinegar concoctions. It's weird that boiling vinegar is so great. Like, man, what a bad smell, And it lingers, and it's kind of gross, and it's a boiling vat of acid. I'm specifically going to be making boiling vats of acid today. Hooray. Oh, nuts. That's the wrong bowl. Doop, doop, doop. Talking to the camera. Forgot which bowl is supposed to be garbage and which one's good stuff. Doop, doop, doop. Let's try that again. The key is to not have them in a definite linear line. If I have to slightly pivot, then I usually remember. Usually. Anyway. And I probably should have worn gloves with these. They're spicy enough that, you know, rubbing my eyes could be a potential problem. So they're not super... These aren't super, super spicy, but, you know. So I don't have any idea why, but I have scenes from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse rolling through my head. I probably saw some, like, meme online and it triggered that, but I keep rolling through parts of that movie. So, whatever. It's a good movie. If you have not seen it and you like Spider-Man stuff, it's real good. These I'm going to leave just as these cute little curls. That's a nice piece. These are cute. No reason to mess with success. So my thought with these two is if there's like a ton of room left in the jar once I kind of break these down, I might also add the poblanos to the same jar. I'm kind of hemming and hawing on that one, but we'll see. Yeah, that's a good piece. Yeah, these are just a nice shape. These are nice peppers. They don't take a lot of effort to render into food because they're basically already there. I swear, there's some food that, like, you wonder how desperate the person was who originally was like, I'm going to make that into food because of how much work it takes. Fugu being the famous one. Don't eat pufferfish, that'll kill you. But, you know, even like cashews, that's crazy. I am not canning. So, good question. I do not have the supplies to do canning. I am just going to be pickling. Which means that everything I make has to remain in the fridge. And it'll stay good for months as long as it's in the fridge. But I don't have canning stuff, unfortunately. I just don't have space for it. You know, you gotta decide what you actually want to have taking up space, and canning supplies have not been high on the list. But yeah, from what I understand, that stuff is, it's not hard to find, I don't think, but it's labor intensive and you have to have the right stuff. But mostly it's just a lot of boiling and sterilizing. Because if you want something to not harbor bacteria, not having the bacteria on there to begin with is a real strong start. So, oh, in glass jars. You can kind of see them. We've got a little collection of glass jars back here on the counter above the dishwasher. I've been walking a really fine line with glass jars because I save good ones from just regular stuff I buy from the store. And you don't want to have so many sitting around that they take up a ton of room and are dumb, but you also want to have enough that if you're doing a project like this, you actually have someplace to put your end result. So we did a clean out of the fridge earlier this week and got rid of some stuff that was a bit old, and then just ate a bunch of things. And I got a bunch of jars back. Including one that had, like, ancient peppers in it that I'd sort of forgotten about in the back of the fridge. So, mistakes were made. Okay. So those are processed. That did not make a ton. Let's see what they look like in a jar. So I have two potential sizes of jars. And, like, I think this one's not big enough and this one might be too big, so I'm actually going to start with the too big jar. No, actually, let's start with the little one. Let's see if we can make this as cute as possible. The phrase for putting vegetables in a container when you're pickling them is to pack the jar. And I kind of love that evocative term because you want to pack it in. You want not a ton of space knocking around in here. You want everything pretty tight up And then when you pour your vinegar in, that fills any remaining spaces that you might have left and is probably, totally sufficient for whatever acid quantity you actually need for the whole process. Oh yeah, I can fit it all in here. When I say that, it starts to get a little tight. I did peach preservation one summer because there was a peach tree in our yard of our rental apartment, and I got like 40 pounds of peaches off of it, and that was fun because not only was I packing sugary, syrupy peaches in jars, but they're very evenly sized and shaped, and so I could make like fancy patterns and things like that. Those were fun. Alright. Just cut this end off because it's already a little funny. Oop. Okay. So that's a nice little jar of peppers. So with this, all I have to do is boil some vinegar and chuck it on top, and that's just done. So I can set that aside. So I'm not going to mix the poblanos in that, so these are both getting on. Maybe these are going to be the ones I just chuck in the fridge to have available for food. I like doing this. I like making a poblano ring. Poblanos are another pepper that's kind of spicy-ish, but it's not a big deal. This mostly looks dried out. So I think this has been sitting around a little too long, and it hasn't rotted exactly, but it's kind of dry, which is not great. Just get rid of that. That looks fine. Yeah, they're just a little dry. So these, I think, I might actually just cook these up. I said I was going to do that with those other green peppers, and it turns out I was a big liar, but I think with these I'm actually going to do it. So, they just go really nice in a taco. They're just a good versatile, flavorful pepper. Oh, okay, yeah, there's a little funky area down there. That's fine. Everything does go well in a taco. Tacos, man. They're just like a great food format. In the everlasting argument of is it a sandwich, I think tacos are superior to a, like leavened bread sandwich because you can kind of cradle things. Whereas if you're putting something in a sandwich, it has to be able to kind of not ooze out the sides. Tacos are inherently supportive. The reluctant beans from last week did eventually cook, and they're a type I apparently hadn't made before. They were really big, so they were like 50% bigger than pinto, and definitely bigger and firmer. So I didn't go into cooking those beans understanding what I was going to get out of it. So they were fine. I mean, they made great beans and rice, and We did eat them with some tacos later in the week, things like that, but they took forever to cook, and that was a little disconcerting. Okay, I think that's all the funky stuff. There's little brown speckles in here, which I'm not sure what they are. So I don't know if it's like little friends. I don't really want little friends. So I'm just going to remove it. Whoop. Can flour go bad? I'd have to imagine, because since it's a grain, it does have a certain amount of fat in it that would be able to go rancid or funky. So yes, and of course there's a lot of funguses that can grow in flour, kind of famously. So yeah, I would say that there's a point where you don't want to keep flour. I've kept some pretty weird old stuff. Like I have some potato starch from a million years ago that I still use. But I think, especially like whole wheat flour, could definitely go bad, because since it's the entire wheat groat, there's more to it, and that would go rancid or funky. So I believe so. Did you find flour from 1975? This bag of flour with your tax returns. I think, actually, the other thing to remember with old food is the older food gets, even if it doesn't, like, rot, per se. I don't know if this is the right term, but let's say it mummifies. You know, so it reaches a point of stabilization that's roughly ongoing and infinite. Even if it's not rotting, the nutritional value goes down. The more delicate molecules that make up the vitamins and minerals that we actually need from our food start to degrade. Some of them almost immediately, which is why there's a whole raw foods movement and things like that. So I think if you have like super old flour, then you might be able to eat it and not die, but it also won't actually feed your body. It'll just pass through you and not do you any good. So that's actually my guess, with the main reason not to eat super old flour that looks fine. Okay, so my peppers, I'm on to shishitos. And something I'm checking for is the ones that have tops that are still nice and intact. Because those I'll probably just leave on, whereas the ones that have the tops that have come off, those I'm going to chop up and preserve a little differently. So, and again, I'm working off of 2 bags, one being significantly older than the other, so I'm assuming it probably splits pretty evenly with old stuff versus new stuff. But, you know, I just mixed them up. You know, that one's a weird enough one. I'll put that in there. I'm also just getting rid of kind of big. Ooh. Okay, that's funky and weird. I have no idea. Because if it's a recent purchase and it wasn't past its expiry date, then I'm gonna just say you got unlucky. But I am sorry to hear that your dumplings didn't work out, because dumplings are delightful. I'll put that in there. So for the pan searing peppers, the recipe asks for them to be completely dried out. You know what? Yeah, I can put that in there. So I might actually have to pat these dry, which is only slightly annoying. It's fine. Oh, yeah, that one didn't stay on. So after I separate these, I'm going to chop up one group of them. Oh, and this is a shishito too, so even though this one's red, they're still the same type of pepper. They've got a lot of variety. They're fun little peppers. I like these. Weird Discovery 2020. These all look pretty good. These also mostly had leaves attached to them, which I found really fun. So I like it when the farmer or whatever is like, look how dang fresh this is. It still has a green leaf. And that's actually nice, and it's a pretty good metric. So it's kind of like how cauliflower often has leaves on it, even though most people don't eat cauliflower leaves. But it's like, look, it's fresh. Protects it. It's nice. Trim that ornament. Okay, I've almost got these split out. Yeah, so this is actually... Since my not as nice peppers are the smaller group, I bet they are more or less split along the old package versus the new package of shishitos. That's okay. I got rid of the questionable ones, so they're really just, fresh versus freshest, which is not too shabby. Okay. So these guys are going to get chopped up. And they're probably going to go in my taller jar. And so, like I said, these I don't actually have to, core them the same way I would a bell pepper. You just chop them. So, kind of, almost jalapeno style, where you want the big wagon wheels. So, that's it. Easy peasy. So let's just say I'm going to definitely put them in here. Let's drop them right in. And there's going to be a lot of seeds in there. That's fine. The seeds will potentially make it spicier, but like I said, most shishitos aren't actually particularly spicy. I declare that pepper funky. I'm not going to do that. Gotta be mindful of the funky pepper. Ooh. The Funky Pepper is my reggae Beatles remix album. The problem with doing wagon wheels, of course, is they can roll directly off my countertop. But, So a benefit of cutting up stuff that you're going to pickle too is that you open the skin up, you open up the membranes, and so the vinegar can penetrate into the tissue of the food faster and more thoroughly. Those funny colored seeds. It probably won't hurt. You know what? I'll just throw that away. I don't want it. Man, I have more than might fit in this jar. We shall see. If I have just a few extras of these, I'll throw them in with my, oh my gosh, poblanos. And they'll just get stir-fried into whatever, and will be lovely. And there, of course, are lots of different sizes of jars like this. I'm just working with what I got. I do have a couple of huge jars, but I use those for all sorts of other stuff. It's looking pretty full, actually. Okay, well, I've still got a couple of these guys left. So I'm going to chop up this big stack, and then I'll see if I do actually want to make an additional jar, which is fine. You know, just make more vinegar, or if these become dinner. Luckily, both outcomes are delicious, so there is no losing. Wow. Yep, that one got some real airtime. That's going. I noticed this one had a funny side to it. So. Yeah, this guy cracked, but I think it's actually in pretty good shape. So I will just throw this immediately in with the poblanos and not worry about it. I think it's fine, it's just funny looking. Yeah, some of these just have kind of dark seeds. So what I'm planning on doing once I get everything as chopped up as I need, I have some garlic I'm going to chop up too. I'm going to take a break and move my camera around so you guys can see the stove, because I'm going to have a couple different containers going. I'm going to have the vinegars, multiple pots of vinegar going for the brining of the things that are going to get pickled, but then also I need to blister the other shishitos. So I will take a break so I can move my stuff around and do that. And you know, breaks are good. Everybody benefits. Alright. So that's a decent little quantity. I don't know. I don't think I'll pickle these. I think I'll just save them. So those will be dinner. And that's fine. And then I've got these guys I'm going to leave whole. So these are going to get blistered. So I don't have to do anything else with those other than try to get them a little drier. So the last thing I'm going to do is chop up a lot of garlic. I've got a couple of these different recipes that are like, you know, it's really good in brine garlic. And sure, okay. So... And adding garlic to this sort of stuff, you can either add whole garlic, like the whole clove, or you can chop it up. It depends on how intermixed you want the garlic flavor. So if you want it to be a really big garlicky flavor, you mince it, and it'll completely fall apart and integrate into everything. Or if you leave them whole, it will add a nice light garlic flavor, and then you also get chunks of pickled garlic that you can use for stuff. So, you know, all of these things are good. Oh wow, that's... Oh no, that is 2. I think it's 2. Yeah, that's 2 pieces of garlic. That's been something that my CSA has been phenomenal at, is alliums. They have pretty steady drumbeat of different varieties of garlic and onions. And so I basically always have some quantity of onions or garlic. I've had to go and get a little bit of extra because I like both of these things a lot and I use them for everything, but for the most part, the farm that we get this from has been really, really on top of making sure you got your alliums. Oh, come on, little bud. Boop. Like the tiniest little garlic clove. Look at that little guy. So I think I'm going to mince some of it and leave some of it whole. Man, there's like a ton of these. These are all so small, so I want to use all of them. That's just a lot of peeling. So that has to do with the variety of garlic. There's also like long stem garlic, or hard stem garlic versus soft stem garlic. Hard stem garlic has a hard stem that goes all the way down to the base. And so like you get a perfect little rosette of little cloves, whereas the soft stem, you tend to get all these little mutant little guys. Which, I'm not mad, they're all yummy, and arguably you get more per garlic head with the soft stem, but it's a lot more peeling. Ooh, although I do have a broth recipe where you just take an entire head of garlic and you slice the top off and then chuck the whole dude into the pot. And so you slice the top off, which means that it's open, but it's all still clustered together in the little root base, and man, that is great for making broth. Obviously wash the roots. Man, this little bit on the back doesn't want to come off. Oh, and the other flavor I'm going to be adding, it's still back on the drainer, is cilantro. I'm going to need space. Actually, you know what? The cilantro is probably only going to go with the blistered stuff anyway, so I got space. Although now that I look at it, man, I got to make sure I got enough room for all those blistered peppers. This is a ton of peppers. I'm behind. I really had a lot of this stuff to process through. I have to make sure I actually have somewhere to put it. Okay, so I have just a delightful little mountain of garlic cloves here. So the little guys get to be whole. Just put those off to the side. They're fine. These I can mince up. You don't actually have to cut this bottom part off, but for texture, I always take it off. Sometimes if I'm doing a lot of vegetable prep, I'll save those and chuck them in a big pile of stuff I'm going to put in broth. So if I'm making my own stock, I'll save those ends. The stock, of course, is inherently made out of trash, so if it's something you cut off a vegetable, you could probably make stock out of it. Just try to avoid actual dirt. Okay. I don't have to go super nuts with this. I think that's minced enough. Okay, so pile of minced garlic, pile of whole garlic I can do different things with. What have I got here? Okay, so I think what I'm going to do now is just double check that I can actually even vaguely pack my peppers into the vessel I want to put them in. Actually, you know what's perfect? I have an actual pickle jar that I just saved, but I haven't taken the label off of yet. Okay, so actually, I'm going to move this. I'm going to take a quick break dealing with the veggies, and I'm going to get that label off, because that's fun. Because I do have Goo Gone, and there's no reason not to use it. Goo Gone is fun. I think it's mostly like citrus oil. Citrus oil is actually some pretty rockin' stuff. You can do a lot of weird stuff with it. So it just disintegrates the old adhesive. And it smells great because it's mostly citrus oil. You have to kind of let it, actually soak in a little bit. It should get it off. This has actually already gone through the dishwasher. So I tried just, heat and water. Man, yeah, that's starting to do it, but possibly not at the speed I want to be able to put things in it, like, right now. Of course, the label on the outside of the jar actually affects the contents of the jar. Not at all. It just doesn't look as cool inside my fridge. Yeah, this might not be the total correct answer for this particular bunch of shmoo. It's funny because when I put the fresh oil on it, I can see it react pretty much immediately and start picking up the edges, but because it definitely got some off, but seems to be a limit. Okay, well, then I am going to just run this under hot water and add some soap and clean this up and use the jar even though there's a little bit of a label mark on it because that actually doesn't affect my food. Oh, wow, that went right through the wax paper. That's fun. Luckily, it's oil. Alright, one moment. Wash in a jar. Oh, good. So it did loosen it, and then soap and water is getting basically the rest of this off. That's cool. make pickles in a pickle jar. That seems somehow classic and appropriate. So yeah, the oil loosened the label up, and then soapy water did the rest. And this I can fit the peppers in, and if I have like one or two that don't fit, I will eat them. So I am not terribly concerned. Alright, fab. So, there. That's my dude there. Got those, I got my garlic chopped. Okay, fab. So I'm gonna take a like 5-10 minute break. I'm gonna move all this stuff around so you guys can see my stove, and drink some water. So it is, what, 2:57 right now, so I'll be back at like somewhere around 3:10ish, give or take, a little bit before then, 3:05, 3:10. So I will see you guys in a bit. Alright. So let's see. I'm trying to get enough height out of this that I can see the entire range. Okay, that's not bad. It's going in the right direction. Alright, hi, I'm back. Okay, so I've got my cooking area here starting up. So this pan is already on pretty high. Yeah, it's fine. So this is where I'm going to blister the shishitos. So I want it to be super hot. I've been towel drying the peppers, and so I'm going to chuck them in there. And actually, it reminds me once. Landing place for them. So the peppers at this point, I'm going to blister and then chuck into this here bowl so that they can cool off a little bit, because I have to be able to handle them to put them in the jars, at least a bit. So they don't have to be like cold, but I have to be able to interact with them in a way that's not going to hurt me. Because, you know, I don't need that in my day. So, have that ready to go. And then the two different vinegars, one of them is going to be basically just vinegar. And then the other one I'm going to flavor up. Because some recipes have you just put all of the flavorful ingredients in with your main, whatever you're doing. So in this case, peppers plus garlic cloves and whatever. Others have you actually cook the flavors in with the vinegar. So I'm just going to try a bunch of different things and we'll see which ones are delicious. Luckily, probably all of them in different ways. So can't complain too much with that. Oh, I'll actually my light on too. There we go. It's a little sparklier. My face is still in shadow over here, but that's okay. You're looking at the food anyway. Okay. My pan's sweating a little bit. I oil my pans a lot, and so this one I can see a little bit of oil kind of rising up and smoking, which I don't think will hurt what I'm trying to do here. So let's make a loud noise. Actually, it shouldn't be too loud because these are hypothetically dry. So yeah, okay. So no ching this time. A little bit. Woo! Exciting. They might explode because, of course, I haven't poked any holes in them. I'm going to turn that down for not absolutely gates of hell hot. But, okay. So now it's just a process. Now these just have to blister, so they'll wobble around and snap. And then after a couple minutes, at 307, I'll say at 309, I'll see about flipping them over. And hopefully they'll be nice and blackened in little parts. Because I actually don't necessarily want the entire meat of the pepper 100% cooked up. I want them partially still fresh and raw and partially not. Yeah, they are wobbling a little bit. I'm a minute early, but they're just barely starting to show some spots. But that's good. My thought is, once I get my second round of peppers in here, because I had to split the batch to fit them in my pan, once the second round's in here, I can start measuring my vinegar to put in the other pots. Maybe put it back up on Hellfire. Why not? I'm actually trying to burn. And so again, if you want to eat them fresh, this is the way that you cook shishitos, is you chuck them in a pan, blister them, and then instead of the cooling and adding vinegar thing, which I'm going to do to preserve them, you throw them in a bowl with some salt and toss them around in the salt, and then just eat them. Oh, that one's nice and blistered. Come on, buddy, I need you to flip over. And unsurprising news, woo, it's hot holding my hand over that pan. So, working, I guess, but also vaguely fun. Oh yeah, some of these are nice. Nice. Whew. Yeah, I gotta turn this down just because there's so much heat escaping around the sides, it's actually burning my hands. So, I don't know if the microphone is picking up, there's a little bit of a sizzle occasionally because the peppers are starting to explode and ooze delicious pepper juice onto the hot pan. Come on, man, look over there. Woo! Such as that. That was a decent explosion. Good food is defined by the correct types of explosions. Alright. Oh yeah, these are looking good. You can only vaguely see the sizzle. This camera has the weirdest focus, so I'm not gonna quite get that, but right in the middle. Oh, these look good. These look good. Okay. Yes, to sizzle. And so the fact that we're blistering these before trying to pickle them is great because then they'll have the kind of smoky taste from the burned areas when they pickle up, which I find very exciting. Okay, yeah, those are starting to go. So this middle one needs a little bit more time, so I've got it, in the hardest part, and then everything else doesn't hurt from cooking up a little bit more. This one's just kind of a wrinkly enough shape, it's not getting the same surface contact that some of the other ones were. So I'm going to pull out the ones that are real toasty, like that. That's a nice blistered pepper. Boom. Little one obviously done. That one's good. That's good. That one's good. Good. These are looking really delicious. Okay, happy with you. Happy with you. Happy with you. The instructions for pickling these say that if the peppers didn't split, you want to actually poke them with a sharp knife before adding the vinegar to the jar, because you want an entry point for the vinegar to get inside of them. But woo, that was a good explosion. But yeah, if they're conveniently exploding for me, then I don't have to worry about that. So I'm gonna declare you done. Oh, they smell good. Okay. Yeah, so that's my reluctant one. That one's okay. Give that just a second more. Ooh, yay, okay, that one exploded a little bit. My final reluctant pepper from round one. Alright, I'm calling you good enough. Boom! New peppers! Alright, round two of peppers. Bam. Okay. So these guys, it is 3:13, so around 3:15-ish. I want to turn those. So now I can start getting other stuff mixed up. So all of my recipes for the peppers called for apple cider vinegar. So I don't have a ton, so I might have to supplement with a little bit of white vinegar, which is fine. It's not ideal, but it's fine. So a lot of pickle brine recipes call for equal parts water and vinegar, so put that together. Okay, so for my recipe that just called for vinegar and not a lot else, it definitely gets the cider vinegar because it'll provide its own flavor, and that's great. Hot tip, if you're looking at recipes online and they're just an absolute hellscape of pop-up ads and auto-playing videos and all that sort of mess, see if they have a print button. If you can print the recipe, it moves all that stuff away, and then you don't have to print it, you just have to have it open to that page. And you'll probably be happier. Okay, so that's the one I actually cook it. So actually, I have two different tabs open on my phone. I'm checking if these have sugar. That's the one part I forgot to... No, these just have salt, so... tablespoon of salt. Easy enough. I don't have really fancy kosher salt, unfortunately. I'll just be using table salt. It's fine. Like, could it be fancier? Well, yeah, but it's fine. Alright, so I'm gonna get this started, and then I gotta flip my peppers. Okay. Oh, aha, I did find my tongs. I was momentarily concerned. Oh, these look so good! Oh man, okay. Delightful. These are... the pan obviously is a little bit hotter this time around, so these have blistered up just absolutely gorgeously. Those are some perfect looking blistered peppers. Yeah. Alright. Those are looking really good. And slowly exploding. Fabulous. Yay, exploding food. Please don't hit me in the eye. I don't have a lot of needs, but molten pepper juice to the eye is definitely a thing I want to avoid. I am wearing glasses, so that helps. These look great. And so for this recipe, they just have you put the whole garlic, cloves, and peppercorn and basil, and well, they have basil. I'm going to put cilantro just in the jar with these. So I'll be able to pack that in, then put the peppers on top, then pour the vinegar solution. These just might be done. I think I can get these maybe more perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna call this done. Alright, so heat's off. Get my bowl. Yeah, these have a really nice smoky smell to them, so that's going to translate really nicely into flavor in the finished thing. So, alright, so those are good. And now I have an absurdly hot dish that I'm going to just try not to burn myself on. Ooh. I'm sure I will succeed. So I purposely... There I am. I purposely didn't have the vinegar on too high because I knew I wasn't going to be really paying a lot of attention to it. So it is not yet boiling, but it's getting pretty close. And so now that I'm paying attention over here, I can start the other one. My other pot is significantly bigger because I like this style of pot. They've got a good pouring lip, and so I just used the next size up. It's fine. Okay, so... Oh, okay, okay, so one of these recipes does call for sugar. That's why I had it in my mind. So let's put some apple cider vinegar back in here. Alright, so I'm a little short of my cup, but that's okay. I'll just finish this one off with white. there's so many other flavors here, I'm not really concerned. Probably fine. It's probably fine. It's fine. Okay, so set my tablespoon down. There it is. Tablespoon of salt. And then is it also a tablespoon of sugar? Oh, it's, yeah. So let me get that. That guy is almost boiling. Having these going at slightly different times is good too, because that means I'm not trying to get everything done in exactly the same moment. So, okay, so this is almost there, so now I can get the jar ready. So again, this is my jar that I will be using for the blistered Shishitos. They're all gonna fit. I feel real good about that. And so, what's also gonna go in here is a bunch of cilantro, which I think I can more or less just use this. I'll be a little picky about it. I won't put all of the stems in there, so I'll stand over here. You can see me a little bit. Oh good, my vinegar is just about boiling. And I don't mind having more stem in this than I would for other things. I just don't want it to be like the stem to actually be in my way. That is less fun. And I am planning on putting all of the cilantro in here. Cilantro doesn't have a hugely long shelf life, and this is starting to get on. And why not? What's it going to be? Flavorful? Oh darn! So, as long as it's not like somehow taking up space in a way that I won't be able to fit my peppers in, which it's not, I'm pretty confident there. Okay, so now it looks like I've made a jar of cilantro. That's okay. So I've got the cilantro and my whole garlic, just boop, right in there. And then this one also called for peppercorns, I believe. A teaspoon of black peppercorns. Rotten. So I have that. Oh, this one's unopened. like the idea of adding peppercorns to peppers because I agree these probably won't be hot otherwise. So, warm spices. Gotta love it. Alright, so this jar is just ready to go. It's got, you know, some of the flavor in there. I'm glad you were inspired. All this discussion of pickles sounds delicious. Good. Okay. So, the jar is ready, and so let's see. Once the peppers have cooled, pierce each one with the knife so that they can get inside. I think they're fine. Pack the peppers in the jar. Should be pretty easy at this point. So. You know what? Why not? I'll poke them with a knife. I've done this much work, right? So poke it with a knife, and put it in the jar, and poke it with a knife, and put it in the jar. This seems like a perfectly fantastic way to do this stuff. I say that, and then I'm unable to pick this one up. Yeah, these peppers definitely still have a good bit of body to them. I didn't totally moosh them out. Now, they're going to get all mushy when they're pickled, of course. That's one of the joys of pickles, is they're kind of soft. But these did cool down nicely, so I feel good there. Okay, so I'm, you know, partway full. Salad in a jar. This is looking excellent. Come on, buddy. I have a really curled up pepper. I don't know if you noticed it was in the bin, or when it was in the pan. That would be kind of a treat in there. Okay, so this is starting to fill up, which is looking absolutely perfect. If you do make your own pickles, you want to let them sit for, like, depending on the type of vegetable, it's a minimum of 2 days. Sometimes it's a week. Before it would have a chance to have actually pickled and thus changed and become the, you know, delicious treat you're kind of going for. So you don't pop them in the fridge and then sample them the very next day. You probably you won't have the fully developed flavors. Oh man, these are getting tight. I might be forced to eat one. Oh no. No, I did a good job and I left behind all the little peppers that can just sit loosely on the top. Oh well. Too bad me. Okay. So, I now have a nicely packed jar of peppers with a ton of cilantro and garlic in it. And now I get to pour molten acid all over it because that's what pickling is. So, I'm gonna let that not be boiling completely because I don't want to hurt myself. I probably won't, but okay, there we go. Alright, that pretty much was exactly the quantity to fill this jar, which is incredibly satisfying. So, okay there. Settle these guys down a little bit, but they're full of air, so I won't, so I'm fine. Whew. That is hot, because of course it is. Okay. So, there they are, suspended in their fluid. So I'm going to leave this off to the side so it can cool before I try putting it in my fridge. But that's one round of pickles totally done. And then this is almost to a boil. And so for this one, okay, so I have my 2 jars of sliced pickles, or I'm sorry, sliced peppers. So I've got the other shishitos and then these red guys. So I'll just have those over there. So combine remaining ingredients. So this one we want to put like everything in there. So the garlic, this one has mustard seed just to be fancy. So let me add that stuff in. Now that it seems plenty hot. So it's wow, this calls for a tablespoon of peppercorns. Excitement. Where did I totally put down my adorable little bag of peppercorns? So I put it behind here? Yes, I did. Alright. So a tablespoon of peppercorns. And a teaspoon of mustard seeds, so not as much mustard seeds. I had the teaspoon out, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Good job, me. Okay. As soon as you put round, hard spices into it, it looks like you're supposed to make peppers or pickles out of it, which is pretty funny. And I already added my sugar and my salt, so that's all good. Once a rolling boil is reached, remove it from the heat and pour it over the peppers. So I feel like we're there. Yeah, those are probably fine. Again, I'll give that just a second so I don't absolutely, definitely harm myself. Okay. Well, I'm going to have extra brining material for this, and I definitely used everything. Okay, since I didn't empty out all of my vinegar, you can see I've got a bunch of really good spices in there. I don't want to lose those, so I'm actually going to scoop a lot of that out and just plap it on top. I want that flavor. Plap, of course, is a technical term. These are looking really good. Like, I'm happy with the overall effect. And I might not be able to fit every single spice into here, which is too bad, but... Every time I look back at the green jar over here, there's more space on the top because more bubbles have escaped from the little tubes of peppers. So I keep being able to add more to it. Okay. That I will call good enough. Fresh can lids. If I was real smart, I would have labeled these jars before they were all hot, but I'm not, evidently, so it's okay. Alright, so I've got my first little jar, tightly packed red spicy peppers with a ton of garlic in there, so these are going to be real flavorful. These will be real good on sandwiches. I can throw them in stir fry. They're going to be great. And then my shishitos, my round 2 shishitos are in there, and these are funny. They're so light that there's actually a ton of there it is, brine at the bottom because they kept floating up to the top, but that's okay. Actually, if I can, there we go. Try to get some of those spices mixed a little bit. But yeah, so I've got those guys, and of course my blistered ones. So yeah, I have now prepped. Whew, that was an hour and 40 minutes of just peppers. So obviously I was real behind and needed to do that stuff. So thank goodness that's done. Yeah, honestly, I might just wrap up this feed a little bit early. I've got nothing else that I was really going to immediately prep that I wouldn't have to clean reset the kitchen for, so I don't think I'm going to try and make a cake or something else for right now. But I'm pretty happy with that, so 3 jars of pickles. Oh, hey, that's what I was going to do. I was going to check on my frozen stuff. So let's see if those peppers actually froze. I can move those this way. I might sneeze. No? Okay, I'm not going to sneeze. Anyway. Okay, I have a gallon bag for my freezer stuff. It's probably generous, given how many peppers there were, but that's okay. Oh, these are fine. So on the other end of the spectrum from boiling acid, we have frozen peppers. And so, I can just sort of break these loose. So delightfully frozen. So good. Alright, so those are good. Definitely sound frozen to me. And then get them in my bag. Sorry I'm a little off camera for this, so I'm trying to... Obviously I could work over the stove, but seeing as it's real hot and the whole point of this was to keep this frozen, I want to be over here. And these peppers will last, and this is another one, we were kind of talking earlier about how you lose nutrients over time. Processing peppers in any way is going to make them not quite as vitamin-tastic as eating a fresh pepper. And then over time in the freezer they actually lose vitamins too. So if you have frozen vegetables that have been in your freezer for like 3 years, just throw them out or just use them and don't worry about the fact that they're probably not going to be the thing that's going to help you grow healthy buns of beef. Probably at that point just going to add color or texture to your food, which is not the worst. But, be better. Alright. So I probably could have used a significantly smaller bag. That's okay. And then when I refreeze them, I try to kind of make a little pillow out of it so that they're still flatter. Because obviously it got hot while I've been handling it. So, Alright. Whew, I'm glad I didn't forget that. Okay, so that's bell peppers, three colors of bell peppers, 2 different ways to pickle shishito peppers, those random red peppers, of which I don't know exactly what they were, but they're good, and the fresh poblanos that I'm going to eat at some point in the next couple days. So, gosh, that was a ton of peppers. So, okay, with that, now I'm wrapping up. That's all my stuff. So I've got some dishes to do, but now I have delicious things. And again, these were not canned, so I'll just have them in my fridge for the next bit. Pseudonine, would you mind hitting a band hammer? Thank you. Okay. So, on that note, I will catch you guys all next time. I will be back on Thursday doing random tinkering. I forget what the plan was for that. I think there was something I was working on. I have so many different projects, it's hard to keep track of. But, oh good. Shard Mom, I'm glad you had a good time. So, take care, and I will see everybody around. Bye!